I know thy works, and tribulation, and poverty, but thou art rich. Welcome to the Black Excellence and Abundance Channel. What would the world be like without black inventors? In 1923, Garrett Morgan, a black man, patented an electric automatic traffic signal. He also invented the gas mask.
Morgan was born in 1877 at Clarksville, Harrison County, Kentucky. Most of his teenage years were spent working as a handyman for a Cincinnati landowner. Like many American children growing up in the turn of the century, Morgan had to quit school at a young age in order to work full-time. Morgan was able to hire a tutor and continue his studies while working in Cincinnati. In 1895, he moved to Cleveland, Ohio, where he began repairing sewing machines for a clothing manufacturer. This experience with repairing sewing machines was the motivation for Morgan's interest in how things worked. His first invention, developed during this period, was a fastener for sewing machines.
Mr. Morgan experimented with a liquid that gave sewing machine needles a high polish that prevented the needle from scorching fabric as it sewed. In 1905, Morgan accidentally discovered that the liquid could also straighten hair. He made the liquid into a cream and launched that the G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company to market it. He also made a black hair oil dye and invented a curved tooth comb for hair straightening in 1910.
Throughout this period of time, before his first patent in 1912, he was slowly building his reputation in Cleveland for his skill at fixing things.
In 1907, Morgan, with nearly a decade of experience with sewing machines, finally opened up his own sewing machine shop. In 1908, Morgan became more conscious of his heritage and helped found the Cleveland Association of Colored Men. In 1909, he and his wife, Mary Ann, expanded their business ventures by opening up a shop called Morgan's Cut Rate Ladies Clothing Store. The shop had 32 employees and made coats, suits, dresses, and other clothing. Around 1910, his interest in repairing other people's inventions waned, and he became interested in developing some of his own.
The first American-made automobiles were introduced to consumers just before the turn of the 20th century, and pedestrians, bicycles, animal-drawn wagons, and motor vehicles all had to share the same roads. To deal with the growing problem of traffic accidents, a number of variations of the traffic signal devices began to develop and started around 1913.
Morgan had witnessed a serious accident at an intersection, and he filed a patent for traffic control device having a third warning position in 1922. The patent was granted in 1923, though this was not the first system with a warning, a three-light system being invented in 1920, and previous systems having audible warnings.
Thus, his version of the traffic signal was introduced to the world.
Besides stop and go, the system also first stopped traffic in all directions to give drivers time to stop or get through the intersection. Another benefit of Morgan's design was that it could be produced inexpensively, thus increasing the number of signals that could be installed. His invention saved millions of lives. His invention is used multiple times a day, every day, by billions, and we don't even know it.
Another one of Garrett Morgan's great life-saving inventions was the smoke hood, later called the gas mask. Garrett Morgan invented a safety hood smoke protection device after seeing firefighters struggling from the smoke they encountered in the line of duty. His device used a wet sponge to filter out smoke and cool the air. It also took advantage of the way smoke and fumes tend to rise to higher positions while leaving a layer or more breathable air below, by using an air intake, the tube that dangled near the floor.
The safety hood used a series of tubes to draw clean air off the lowest level the tubes could extend to. Smoke, being hotter than the air around it, rises, and by drawing air from the ground, the safety hood provided the user with a way to perform emergency respiration. He filed for a patent on the device in 1912 and founded a company called the National Safety Device Company in 1914 to market it.
His safety device was simple and effective, whereas the other devices in use at the time were generally difficult to put on, excessively complex, unreliable, or ineffective. It was patented and awarded a gold medal 2 years later by the International Association of Fire Chiefs. Morgan's safety hood was used to save many lives during the period of its use. By World War I, his breathing device was refined to carry its own air supply, making it a gas mask.
His invention became known nationally when he led a rescue that saved several men's lives after a July 24, 1916 tunnel explosion under Lake Erie. Before Morgan arrived, 2 previous rescue attempts had failed. The attempted rescuers had become victims themselves by entering the tunnel and not returning.
So this great man was not only an inventor, but he was also a hero.
Morgan was woken up in the middle of the night after one of the members of the rescue team who had been seen in a demonstration of his device sent a messenger to convince him to come and to bring as many of his hoods as he could. He arrived on the scene still wearing his pajamas and brought his brother Frank and 4 of the hoods with him.
Most of the rescuers on the scene were initially skeptical of his device, so he and his brother went into the tunnel along with 2 other volunteers and succeeded in pulling out 2 men from the previous rescue attempts. He emerged carrying a victim on his back, and his brother followed just behind with another. Others joined in after his team succeeded and rescued several more. His device was also used to retrieve the bodies of the rescuers that did not survive. He emerged carrying a victim on his back, and his brother followed just behind with another. Others joined in after his team succeeded and rescued several more. His device was also used to retrieve the bodies of the rescuers that did not survive.
Morgan personally made 4 trips into the tunnel during the rescue, and his health was affected for years afterward from the fumes he encountered there.
Similar to the effects the rescuers at 9/11 suffered years later.
Cleveland's bigoted and envious newspaper and city officials ignored Morgan's act of heroism as the first to rush into the tunnel for the rescue and his key role as the provider of the equipment that made the rescue possible.
Ladies and gentlemen, the city officials of Cleveland and the newspaper at that time ought to be ashamed of themselves. That was a shame. That was shameless for them to ignore this man. No telling how many lives he saved that day. If it were not for him, all those men would have surely perished. Another shameful, disgusting act by the city officials is that they requested that the Carnegie Hero Fund Commission to issue medals to several of the men involved in the rescue, but excluded Morgan from their request. One good thing that did come out of the event was after the heroic rescue, Morgan's company received order requests from fire departments all over the country. Later, in 1917, a group of citizens of Cleveland tried to correct for the omission by presenting him with a diamond-studded gold medal. Another interesting fact about this great inventor is that Morgan was the first African American to own a car in Cleveland. Unfortunately, our people have been disrespected, ignored, marginalized, and downright overlooked. But not here on the Black Excellence and Abundance channel. This is why we created this channel, so that our heroes, inventors, innovators, in all fields will get the recognition that we so rightly deserve. The Black Excellence and Abundance Channel, where Black history is every day.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as always, thou art rich.